Hello, Ron Bashar here. So we are together with a build video, and I wanted to show this build to you. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to show you some credits first. This is tier 3 Zesh, as you can see. And the thing is, I just don't have people with me. I can kill the 6 people version in, I don't know, 3 seconds? Yeah. No, 5, 6? Something like that.
I have a buyer.
So that was tier 3 Zesh. You can probably also tell by the HP, but I can't show it to you. So that was a tier 3 Zesh, right? Does the same with the Arbiter. So this is the best damage in the game, right? And I have been, putting up some videos in for the parts that were not very well explained, somewhere else. That's why we have all those separate videos, but I'm gonna just go over everything. But you can take a look at the other videos that I have about this, Adonia's ego, how to get the most of pinnacle power, how we manage the spirit, what we use for the spirit, etc. I'm gonna go over all of it, but as I said, I'm just gonna go skim. So because my videos are always too long, I wanted to cut a little bit on the duration, and I wanted to give you something that is a little bit more concise than what I deliver normally, so you could find what you are seeking. So what the build does is that we use and abuse an ability called Pinnacle of Power that is being granted to us by Adonia's ego. What that does is it consumes all of your power charges and gives you a buff that is giving us an elemental damage buff, and the magnitude and the duration of the buff both rely on the number of power charges consumed. So we want to stack as many power charges as we can, and that number is 11. We have to get ourselves 11 power charges. So how do we arrive at that beautiful high number? So as you know, we can hold 3 charges as a player base, right? So we get one more from Adonia's ego, that's 4. Right? We get a corruption on Alpha's Howl, that's 5. We get a grip of Kulemak with max plus 1 max power charges and mirror it, that's 7, right? And we get 4 more from our 3, that's 8. That's 10, and that's 11. That's how we get 11 power charges. And so how do we get those power charges? Because the thing is, guys, so GGG thought that they could, give us a problem by by giving this huge negative effect. That's the 4th line there, negative 11 to all elemental resistances per power charge, which means that would be giving me a whopping negative 121 to all resistance, which means I will be dying all the time, right? But what we do is we stack increased duration, right? And we stack power charges, and we also use the support gem that gives us, as if double consumed heightened charges, and we get a very long buff. So we do not need to refresh this buff during the course of the map. And we also let go of all power charge gaining mechanics. So we actually do not pay for the downside of this item. So this really is irrelevant, right? It could be minus 50 for all you care, because we will not ever be gaining power charges while we are fighting. So how to do that, right? Because as I said, we do not gain power charges while we fight. So how do we gain those power charges? There is this item that normally gives you, that normally has an annoying disadvantage of removing your power charges when you hit max power charges. So you corrupt it in a way that that modifier is removed, and a modifier, that's the 4th line, the first red line there, gain a power charge every second if you haven't lost power charges recently. We want that one to be added, and we want the other one that I told you to be removed, and that gives us our power charges. And when we are done with that, we put it on, right? We wait for the 11 power charges to stack, right? And then we consume them. So that sadly is the latest version. This did not proc. Sadly, this makes for an annoying wait, because as you can see, I have to wait a reasonable amount. Try again, fail, right? This could go on and on, right? And it can be somewhat annoying in solo play, but it can be mighty annoying in group play. They could kick you. Okay, it did work. So how much damage does this give? Is this worth the trouble? Well, it is quite so. Let me tell you, normally my spark damage is around 20k. I didn't show you, I will show it to you later. My spark damage is 20k, right? With the lesser version of the buff, it goes up to 60k, right? And with the greater version of the buff, as you can see, you know, it goes insane. So this is a big deal. And I guess we can all agree that, you know, near 5 minutes is enough time to do a map, right? Unless you are doing some extremely hard map, which means you can just step out for a second. And I'm not saying step out of the map, step out from combat for a second, you put this chest back on and you have to do it again, right? So that's it. Yeah, so let's go over the gear. Sadly, almost all of our gear is unique with the exception of boots, so there is no room for getting rarity, right? Maybe from boots, but I wouldn't suggest. So it's a 0 rarity build. There is that weighting that I showed you, and the weight can go very nasty, right? I have a special video for the weight, which went like 3 minutes. Yeah, can go. That 3 minutes is very unlucky, but you know, the average with my setup is around 50 seconds, and there is a little bit of a more. I don't really want to say the word budget because this is not budget, right? This is expensive. There is a little more affordable version in which the skill tree changes a little bit, and then it would be upwards of 60 seconds, right? 65 seconds, you know, about 1 minute, but a little bit longer. So what do we wear? We use Adonia's Ego with +4 and as high speed as cast speed as we can. And I'll also do the pricing here. This is about 600 divine, right? You can get it for cheaper on a good day, but yeah, that is about 600 divine. On to the helmet, we want double corruption with spirit and +1 power charges, or we want the original spirit value to increase alongside with the power charges. That is a bit of a must because, you know, getting to the spirit requirement is very tough because we have 440 spirit. That's a very high amount, especially when you get 0 from your chest and amulet, right? So we have to do some shenanigans to get there, and that's why we are playing a shaman. Yeah, I'm going about the wrong order of things, I guess. We are playing a shaman because we can get some additional spirit while playing as a shaman. Because normally oracle is used here, right? But in this one, we want a shaman because we can get ourselves 80 to 120 additional spirit because we are playing a shaman. I'm going to get into it. We use a Coil of the Storm, the amulet of the season, I guess. I mean, allows us to ignore resistances when we are critical hitting, gives us that nice lightning bolt that helps us. This, I should have upgraded this some time ago with a level 19 one at the very least. Yeah, you want a high amount of lightning resistance and dexterity if you could, right? You allocate cooked on it, or you could do power within and you could get cooked. I'm going to get into that, right? So you can interchange cooked and the power within, right? So this is going to involve a megalomaniac. I will explain. As for the offhand, we will have a threaded light that is corrupted to 15%. This item can spawn with 12% max, and 13, 14, and 15% are via corruption only. 15% ones are extremely expensive these days, sadly. I would say 500 or so. You know, I am a few days out of date, right? I'm like 3 days out of date. So it could have increased more. Maybe it has decreased a little bit, but it was around 500 divine about 3 days ago. This one should be around 100 divines. This one is kind of nothing compared to everything else, like maybe 1 divine. But if you want to get a level 20 lightning bolt, which gives you access to the 5th support gem, then it becomes expensive. Yeah, I guess I should have done that because this is an expensive build. This is the best item in the build. It costs nothing, right? Some exalted at best. We get the grip of Kulemak. This is the most expensive item in the build. Yeah, you wouldn't expect it, would you? Right? This is some garbage that. So the thing is, it has 2 garbage modifiers that are built in, and it has 4 random modifiers. And you know there are quite some versions of it that are worth a mirror, right? Because this ring can do what other items cannot, right? And the combination of the right stuff can be very valuable. So what we want is the 2% increased cast speed per 20 spirit because we have a whopping 440, which gives us 44% cast speed, which is insane. Normal rings can have like 28%. Even if you quality them, they don't get there. And we mirror it so we get a lot of cast speed. We get +1 max power charge. So the combinations, just those two, right? Because as you can see, the other two are garbage. Just those two is about 800 divine these days. Yeah, sadly. So if you want, crit damage or crit chance, some useful stuff in there, you go to mirror level. Sadly, that's about it. And these are the most important two. But if you are trying to get the build to work a little bit on a lower budget, I guess you could let the cast speed go. But the cast speed is pretty important. I mean, the +1 max power charge we definitely want. You saw how much of a difference it makes, right? And now my buff has expired. I can show you my spark is 25k right now. Normally it's a little bit less. Let me see. Oh, I'm getting the weird. Normally it's around 20k. Okay, there is a bit of variance because of all the. Oh, it's the elemental conflux. I see. Now 20k. Okay, that's more like it. I did get it. Okay, gonna explain to you in a minute. So we have this threaded light. We have these items are fun, right? These are low level uniques that you don't even pick up from the ground. This maybe, but this is garbage. So the thing is, guys, we wanna deal all kinds of damage. So to trigger the bonuses from Trinity, etc. That's why we want this, right? Convert some of it to cold, fire, and lightning. So we deal even cold, fire, and lightning damage, and we do a lot of ailments. That's why we have cast on elemental ailment. I'm gonna get into that. We have a beautiful head on here, and my boot needs changing. I did get these boots some time ago. They are not garbage, but they are not also very good. The good thing about it is the 24% fire resist corruption, right? Because the thing is, we do not get any resistances from these items, right? We get resistance lightning from here, we get cold from here, and fire is a problem, right? So that's why we want a lot of fire resistance from here, and that's why we want as many sockets as we can so we can get our resistance sorted. Chaos, you just get whatever you can, right? But the elemental ones have to be kept, obviously. So we want a 3-socketed glove and a 3-socketed chest, right? I basically have 1 socket on the boots because it's 30%. It's getting to 35%. You want as high energy shield as you can go upwards of 300. But if you want 300 and with a lot of resistances, that's gonna cost about 100 divine, which I should have done, right? I'm not defending myself because this build is very expensive. But by the time I did, I was pretty broke, and this is, I would say, okay enough. But that's the upgrade, right? And another upgrade that we need to get is the Covenant here. My Covenant has a problem. It is the life cost efficiency is very low, right? It varies between 25 to 50%. But the problem is if you want to get yourself a 40% one or better with the energy shield on it, then that is about 400 divine or something. That's a problem, right? So yeah, that's about it. And you get your resistances straight, and you want the increased life cost efficiency on the glove, on the helmet, and on the chest, right? So take a look at my spark. So you could be saying, why get all this life cost efficiency? 60 is not that big. That is correct. But what is big is the comets that we rain down on our enemies from cast on elemental ailment and cast on critical, right? So the life cost becomes unbearable if you don't go this path, and that's why I need to replace this. But I don't want to go down in energy shield, so I'm being a little bit obstinate here. I'm not replacing this. I did get a few 40% ones, but they had low energy shield and high energy shield, and also increased life cost efficiency. Is just too expensive at this point. These are the 2 upgrades left for this build, right? I'm not saying these cannot be upgraded, but you know what I mean. These are generally okay, right? But these 2 are in need of an upgrade. So what do we use as skills? So something with Power Siphon. This is funny, guys. So Power Siphon is an ability that we don't use at all, right? It is given to us by this item, right? But the problem with this is, if you do not put Power Siphon on the bars, it will constantly keep deleting Pinnacle of Power from the bars. I'm not kidding, right? And it was driving me mad. I'm like, why is it moving, right? It's moving slots, it's disappearing. It was driving mad. And then I learned that you have to put this on your bars so this doesn't go away. Yeah. Maybe I can upload that as a short for those of you that are going mad with it, because I was going mad with it. So Pinnacle of Power, we have the increased duration, obviously, right? We have the thingy that doesn't allow us to lose charges when we consume them 25% of time, because when we fail to get the double buff, at least we can retry immediately. Immediately meaning waiting for Pinnacle of Power's cooldown, and we use Diala's Desire here. So the +1 level doesn't work, right? It says 25 here. That's a lie. It's a 20 skill, so it does not get affected by the plus skills, but it does get affected by the quality, and every 10% quality gives us 1 more % damage up, right? So normally it's 15%. We get 17% from quality, and we get 18% with Diala in. So that's why we put Diala in here, and we amplify it to heaven and beyond. As you saw, we act as if we are consuming 22 charges, and it gives us 400% damage boost, so that is important. Heart of Ice, that's being granted to us on our secondary weapon slot. Our secondary weapon slot is meant for giving us Archon and a high amount of elemental exposure, and we amplify these elemental exposure by even grabbing even more exposure related passives on the secondary weapon slot skills. This goes somewhere up to like 100% or something. It's insane. Very nice damage buff. Yeah, and we have Ice Storm, so we put Arbiter's Ignition in there. So another thing I failed to mention here is that Pinnacle of Power gives us the chance of applying elemental ailments that are not related to that kind of damage. So for example, our cold can ignite and shock. Our lightning can ignite and freeze. Our fire can shock and freeze, right? That's very important. And we divide our damage evenly here. So we will be applying all the ailments constantly, right? So this means we will be igniting the enemy immediately, and we will be gaining Archon immediately, right? Archon is a nice damage buff. We have Zarok's Refrain to echo the spells, echo the Ice Storm, right? We have Pinpoint Critical. Get used to Pinpoint Critical in this build, because the thing is, because we are not a Blood Mage, our crit rate is not very high, so we need the Pinpoint Critical so we can crit. But Pinpoint Critical is actually a huge damage down gem, right? Because the crit damage bonus is multiplicative. Let me show you, right? Even with the 60% critical chance, my damage is going down only a little bit, right? Let me show it to you on the Spark. Where is it? 20k. I mean, my damage is barely going down, right? It's all with the 60% crit. Why? Because the critical chance that we gain is additive, but the critical damage bonus that we lose is multiplicative, right? It's losing us a huge amount of damage. Okay. We have Pinpoint Critical, and finally we have Potent Exposure, more exposure. So this is for bosses only, right? We have Life Remnants that is being granted to us by the Covenant. We put Kata's Rejuvenation here. This is mostly to cool off the cooldown of Blink, but we have other skills, Mana Temps, etc. We have Remnant Potency and Harmonic Remnants. Life Remnants and Mana Remnants respectively will allow our Mana and Life to overflow by 50%, and Mana will matter because we use Mind over Matter, so that is another layer of survivability. The build is not tanky at all. It's pretty squishy, but you saw the damage, right? The damage is unrivaled, so that's why I'm doing this. The weight is also pretty toxic. We're gonna get into that. Lightning Bolt on the amulet. We use Lightning Mastery, Pinpoint Critical, as usual, Concentrate Area and Deliberation. And if you get a level 21, that's expensive, you put Cooldown Recovery 2 in here, so we can do the Lightning Bolt more frequently. We have Spark. Spark's gems are cheap for a nice surprise. There is one that's 10 Divine, I think. We have Life Tap in here. We have Pinpoint Critical in here. So the Spark crits and we get the Cast on Critical to proc. Rapid Casting. Vilanta's Propulsion. So increase and reductions to cast speed also apply to projectile speed. So the thing is, guys, we are getting 44% cast speed, right? It's mirrored 88%. We get another 32% here. That's 120%. And we get some more from the tree. We have a lot of cast speed, which means our projectile speed is very high. And because we have a lot of increased duration, our sparks will be staying on the screen for very long, and they will be very fast, which means they will be hitting target for longer and much more quickly, which means our cast on critical energy will pile up pretty quick, right? Finally, we have Scion's Temper. We gain Wild Shards and 20% chance to additional 8 projectiles, and we also have access to Cold Infused Spark. We are going to get infusions, so That's pretty good. Cast on critical is our main damage source. We have 2 comets in here. Ataloy's bloodletting. Ataloy's bloodletting is limited to 1, right? And that's the premium life sap, which gives us additional damage. So that's why we use it in here, because that's our main damage source. We have X-Charge Torment. This is an interesting support gem. It gives us penalties sometimes, but on the average, it just gives us more, right? 5% more area effect on average, 5% projectile speed on average, 10% more damage on average, and 10% cost recovery on average. And because we are doing many hits every second, this does help us. We have Spell Cascade, so the comets will cascade. And that's why we are stacking so much cost reduction, right? Because these comets are expensive, right? And this will require a whopping 600 energy. If you are curious to how that works, let me explain for a quick second. So Comet has a 1 second cast time, but in order to prevent this abuse that we are doing right now, it gives you 1 second of total cast time, right? We have 2 comets in here, which gives us 2 seconds of total cast time. And so that means every single comet is 3 seconds, right? And the energy that's required by cast on critical is the cast time of the socketed skills times 100, right? So that's why 1 plus 1 plus 1, that's 3. Again, the same thing, 1 plus 1 plus 1, 3. 3 add by 3, that's 6. 6 seconds cast time, that means it's going to require 600 energy. But because of the mechanics I mentioned, we are going to be filling this pretty quick. We have cast on elemental ailment. We are doing a lot of ailments thanks to the Pinnacle of Power and our assorted damage range. And so this helps us rain more comets, right? We have Arc for shocking, single target, Frost Wall, some more AoE, Comet again, Life Tap, and Spell Cascade. If you notice, we do not have pinpoint critical in these. Why? Because these are the main damage and we don't want to reduce the damage of these, right? Spell Cascade, the pinpoint critical is on the other stuff, so we build energy better for the cast on critical. We have Siphon Elements here. This is the thing that gives us the remnants, right? We are going to freeze, ignite, and shock a lot of enemies, and that means we are going to get the remnants, and the remnants will allow us to use the cold infused spark and the fire infused comet here. We have Fire Mastery and Harmonic Remnants in here. We have Trinity here. We are doing all sorts of damage in a balanced way. That means we are going to gain a lot of resonance and we gain more damage as that resonance stacks. If we get 250 resonance, which we very easily do, 15% more skill speed, and we put Lightning Mastery in. For mapping, we have Blink with Atziri's Impatience in it, and if you have the money, you can get the Uhtred, the 1 skill support Uhtred here. You can also get as high level as Blink as you can, because with Blink, when you get higher levels, you not only get the distance traveled bonus, right? The distance travel that increases, also the cooldown gets lower, right? The Catal's Rejuvenation in Life Remnants helps Blink most of them all. While bossing, you turn Blink off and you put Elemental Conflux on, which I did at the beginning of the video. You have Compressed Duration here and +1 Lightning. Why? Because we mostly want cold and lightning, so we want the buff to be shorter, right? So we want the cycling through the elements to be a little bit quicker. We have Mana Remnants here. We have Remnant Potency, Harmonic Remnants, and Mysticism here. Mysticism is another 30 Spirit Reservation. You can let this go if Spirit is a problem. You can get the build working with 410. We have Mana Tempest here. That's for bosses again. Lightning Mastery, Life Tap, Efficiency, and Mobility. And that's about it for our skills. As I said, you can get an Uhtred here. I don't think I'm missing anything else. You could get higher levels on the Spirit Gems, but they are extremely expensive. I would say Cast on Elemental, Ailment, Siphon Elements, Trinity, these are all fine at 19 or so. Blink, you could get a level 21 for sure. The others are, I would say, fine. Because level 21 Spirit Gems are like 50 divine, very expensive. I only did get Cast on Critical, as you can see. And another trick is, guys, Spirit is a challenge for this build. So if you get a 22% quality or higher, you will save 1 Spirit from the reservation of Cast on Critical. Because 20% is 91 Spirit reserved and 22% is 90 Spirit reserved. It's going to be a very close thing, so that can matter, right? Don't, snigger on it. Okay. Don't look down on it. Okay, so as for the skill tree, what do we have? So the reason that we pick Shaman is this one. We forgo our charm slots, and for every charm slot that we leave open, we get 40 spirit. What I did is I use a rite of passage. That's a little bit luxurious, and no other charms. So I don't have a stun charm and I don't have a freeze charm. And until you get used to the build, right, you will die a lot, right? This build is pretty squishy and dies very quick because we are also susceptible to stuns and freezes. Have to be careful opening lockboxes and whatnot. So this part, the bonded thing is not very good. This also is not very good. So you will have to do a selection between. So you will have to grab these two for sure, right? And you will have to select between Avatar of Evolution and Apocalypse. Apocalypse will just delete everything on your screen. You could go for it. And when I went for this, I had problems surviving. So some more survived. I went Avatar of Evolution, but this is perfectly fine, right? You can do that. So for the 3, we go a lot of skill duration thingies, right? So our buff gets longer. And so, I'm going to go into the cheaper version here. You could use
It's you.
Palm of the Dreamer instead of this Threaded Light here. That's going to lose you a lot of damage. When I say a lot, I'm going to talk about like triple fold, right? So my spark is 20k, right? If I put this on, it's going to go down to 7k or so. This gives you an insane amount of damage because it gives me 600% spell damage, which is insane. So yeah. So what you get out of that is you don't have to use the Against the Darkness with Spirit on it. You don't have to use the From Nothing, which opens up your 2 jewel slots, and you can also let go of the Grand Spectrums, which can open up to 5 jewel slots, right? So do you think if that's worth it? Yeah, I mean, we are getting 200% damage up in return, right? We are doing all these sacrifices, but it also costs a lot of currency. This is about 600 divine. This is about 500 divine. That's about 1,100 divine, whereas the Palm of the Dream is about 100 divine. So you are paying 1,000 divine for the extra. And Palm of the Dreamer gives us chaos resistance. That's also pretty good. It's a very good item. I can definitely recommend it for the cheaper version. You can make the build work with 410 spirit, letting mysticism go. So let me go over my version. So what you do is you get yourself Against the Darkness with spirit, with 12 spirit. If you get a non-corrupted version, you can get any amount of spirit and you could divine it until you get 12 spirit. You hope for something that's useful. The reason I didn't get 4% extra lightning damage is that it costs a mirror, right? I just couldn't afford it. But the better that you can get is the better. And the nearest keystone to this slot is the Zealot's Oath. So you get yourself a From Nothing with Zealot's Oath, and then you allocate everything that is in the intersection of this Venn diagram, so to speak, right? 6 skills here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sadly, these skills are garbage, with the exception of this one, which doesn't do a lot. The others literally don't do anything. So we are sacrificing all of this for this 72 spirit, right? And we get 3 Grand Spectrums that are emeralds. So these give 2% spirit each for each socketed. So we have 3 socketed, so that means 6% spirit per, right? We have 3 socketed, so 18% spirit. So, and when you do this, it's gonna add up barely, right? You get 120 something from here. We have 100 base. We get 80 from the Ascendancy. That's about 300. You get 70 something from the Against the Darkness. And finally, you amplify this final number by 18%, and it's gonna arrive here, right? Very barely. And the workaround is, as I said, you just let all of these go. You let this offhand go. You use a Palm of the Dreamer, and you take off the mysticism if you play with 410 spirit. And if you put 2 Grand Spectrums in there, you will be arriving at 440, and you can use this. But eventually you want to arrive at this setup, right? Because this build's defense are not great. This build thrives on damage, and because we have leech, the damage that we do also defends us. As for the flask, nothing complicated. I just have a life flask. If you can get an old roads, by all means, right? And I'm just using this one, right? So because we have mind over matter, mana is also giving us survivability. We only use mana for Ice Storm. That's it, right? That's the only thing that we use mana on. We use Ice Storm. We put the this one, and then start spamming spark. So mapping is simple. You just spam spark and just blink. That's it, right? For the bosses, you put the ice storm on, and then you do the mana tempest, or vice versa. Mana tempest on and ice storm, and then you start spamming sparks, and everything will die, right? This is including 6-man Uber Arbiter, right? I just don't have the people and the fragments, but I'll take my word for it. I would say 8-9 seconds in the worst case. Yeah. That is 175 million HP almost. Okay. So you can see the tree here. We have some red skills. Red skills are for the primary weapon slot, and they are meant for damage, power charges, and whatnot. And the green skills are meant for increased exposure, Archon potency, right? Archon duration, whatnot, right? That sort of thing. So you can see the skill tree here. And the thing is, I have a Megalomaniac with the power within, right? You can get yourself a power within Megalomaniac, or you can get yourself a cooked Megalomaniac, right? And you can do the imprint, the anoint on your amulet, the other one, right? The problem is that is about 500 divine, and it will save you 3 skill points. Half. Take a look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the only thing that you are getting out of these 8 skill points is this one, right? And I can get to this jewel slot with 5 points, which means I'm going to be saving up 3 points. And if you also don't do this tech, these skill points will be available to you as well. This is the final tree I'm getting. I'm level 96 at this point, and if I get level 97, I'm gonna allocate barbaric strength, and I guess then I would be done. Just get anything useful is fine. That's the skill tree. I have very little in the way of regular gems because I'm using it from nothing. I'm using a Megalomaniac, I'm using it against the darkness, and 3 ground spectrums, so that is 6, right? I have, I think, 7 slots, and that's the only jewel I'm using. If you are going for the palm of the Dreamer tech, you can use jewels like these, maybe hopefully better ones. Energy shield, crit chance, crit damage, spell damage, cold resistance penetration, whatever you can. We do not have Rakiatas, so cold resistance penetration can be welcome. So yeah, that's the gear, that's the skills, that's the showcase. I get the distinct feeling I'm forgetting something. Campaign bonuses are not really very important. You get the stun threshold thing, you get the resistances from Act 5, you get the 30% increased life recovery from flasks. You take a look at your resistance and movement. If you have resistances maxed out, you can go for the 3% movement from the interlude bonus here. I got the elemental resistances here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about this. So this is a build guide. I don't want to leave anything in the open. I'm just considering if I guess I can show you guys a map. Let me grab a map. I'm not going to do anything fancy. Just a random 6 modifier map. For bossing, as I said, turn blink off and turn elemental conflux on. Blink helps big time with the survivability. Let me try a. So you do not like delirium as a map mechanic. Why? Because monsters spawn in your face, right? You don't like that. So let me just show you the wait. Hopefully we won't wait for too long. But so this has a 20% chance of working, right? So 80% chance of not working. So it didn't work, right? We want the 4 minutes 40 seconds. So if I'm rushing through this map, right, this duration can be sufficient. But if I'm doing an end game content, I definitely want it to proc, and I want to show it to you in its prime. I also want to showcase you the wait. As you can see, it can go pretty nice, right? I think we are about 20 to 25 seconds in. Use blink offensively at your own risk, because you could blink in a few monsters and you could die. The build is, as I said, by no means survivable. Okay, it did proc. Now we are ready. Go. Yeah, Abyss. Interesting, okay. The build handles kind of everything, right? After you are procced, you are fine. As you can see, we are raining a lot of comets. So all that could increase cost efficiencies for those comets, right? Those comets are expensive. So normally they are upwards of 300 life, which is pretty high. And with all the cost efficiencies that we have, they go down to 180 or something. My comets are level 21, of course, right? These are cheap. The spirit gems are very expensive, and they also don't do all that much. But I guess if you wanna go the full package, you could grab that, right? But even as it is, this is about 3,000 divine or so. Prices are constantly changing. I don't want to give an exact amount, but yeah. And of course, there's the beautiful thing that's called a lucky buy. So for example, guys, I did tell you my wand is 600 divine, right? I did buy it for 200. And the weirdest part, guys, at the time I wasn't, very well versed with the item, and it was up for 2 hours. I'm like, this does look very good. The skill is +4, which is, corrupted beyond the regular limit. And the cast speed also is corrupted beyond the regular limit. And it has 1+1 power charges. I mean, I'm like, this is looking great, right? And normally, that kind of item stays up for a minute or two, right? Not 2 hours. And after, looking at it, a million times, I'm like, okay, I guess this is the deal. And it is, right? I bought a 600, maybe even more, by the way. Maybe even more expensive. For 200, that can happen. But if you buy it reliably, yeah, that's it. Okay? As you can see, the timer was actually enough. Barely though. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna do the Amana Storm, this one. Yeah. By the way, don't worry about my life. That's happening because of the Mana Tempest. It's draining my life. I'm panicking every time, a little bit myself. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's the Archon form, by the way, the flashy thing that you see. Okay. Oh, there's the seasonal mechanic. Let's go grab it. Where is it, though? Oh, okay, I see. So guys, when mapping, you don't need the elemental conflux, but it gives something about a 25% damage up. So against bosses, you definitely need it. And why would you? I mean, blink is always useful, but yeah. So the upgrades that you can do on my version is you get yourself an Utred that works with one soccer thing on, because there are 3 tiers of Utred, right? One of them is 1000 divine, but not all of them are worth that much. Do divine versus Utred. Okay, that's the one that we need. That's several hundred, I'm guessing. Oh my god. Good lord, 1200 already. Yeah. So you have to get the middle level of Utred. That's the 300 divine one. And you get yourself a level 21 blink if you can. And put that in so we keep our blinks cooldown as short as possible so we can go through the maps. I did try the light radius tech for getting to for temple farming. I died quite a few times and I gave up on it, but could be tried again. And the most annoying thing is that Kulemak actually gives us reduced light radius, and we are amplifying it here, right? We definitely want to change it with this one, but yeah, I just died. I never tried it again. Maybe it would work. The blink did wonders for my survival in mapping. Being able to get away was a nice thing. So this is the highest damage in the game, I think, guys. I mean, you just saw it with your own eyes. It was like 2 seconds on the Breach 3. And it does work on 6-man, whatever it is, right? It just works. The most annoying part of this build is the budget that you have to bring together, right? And the weight, right? The weight is terrible, right? 3 minutes, it can go very nasty. And I'm just going to go over the prices just one final time. I know you guys will be annoyed about this, but that's about 600. That's about 100. That's about 1, right? I should definitely replace it with a level 19 one, if not a level 21. Level 20, not 1. That's about 500. That's 0. That's about 80 or something. But if you want to get the increased life cost efficiency to like 40-45%, then it goes up to 400 or so, right? That's the other upgrade that I should be doing, right? Kulemak, If you can get anything on top of the power charges and cast speed, that's good, right? Anything useful. Painter Servant, you want 3 sockets and you want the gain thingy as high as possible. It goes all the way up to 30, right? It goes all the way down to 15, so minus 26%. That's nice. You know, I bought it as it is because the socket is extremely expensive. The socket was already in there. You want a headhunter. Any useful corruption is fine. Keep in mind that you want at least 2 charges, so the campaign completes it to 3 charges, so you get 80 spirit out of it. And the boot, high energy shield, high movement speed, as much resistance as you could muster, especially fire, because you know cold and lightning are kind of handled by these two. So there is that. This is about 200 divine. This is about 700, 800 divine. It varies a little bit because this is not an item that you can find very easily. Right? These are not the other items. As for the jewels, that's about 600. This is about 500. Sadly, yeah. With just one useful passive, yeah, it's insane. These are cheap. They are about 10. You can get something useful out of them. I don't have anything useful in them. I don't have anything useful, but you can get some small amount of stats. You can get some small amount of resistances. They can help, right? And the price goes from 10 to like 30s, right? It doesn't go 100 from 10. So you could definitely do that. I didn't need it, so I didn't go for it. These are, you know, few divines. If you want to get better, of course, the price increases. From nothing is worthless. That's, you know, I almost cried from joy because, you know, I was on such a budget, right? I was doing this transition and I got this Spirit Against the Darkness and I got this one and I was, you know, cost me upwards of 1,000 divine and I was pretty broke. And then there was this. I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be like 50 divine. And I don't have it, right? I won't be able to do the build transition. And then this was like 20 exalt or something. And I was so, it wasn't even 1 divine, right? That's worth 0, right? Alongside with this, these are the items that make you happy. And Headhunter, and these are also, you know, cheap compared to everything else, not in the neighborhood of hundreds of divines. So if we do some sort of addition, that's 600, that's 500, that's 1,100. Let's say 50 for everything else, 1,150, 1,750, 1,800, 2,300, 3,000. No, it's above 3,000. If you get a proper chest, 3,300, 3,500. Yeah, let's say like something like 3,600 or so, right? With the improvements I'm suggesting, right? Mine is in the 3,000 neighborhood, but I'm suggesting 3,600. So guys, this is mostly to, you know, impress your friends, family, you know, guildies, right? Insane damage. You know, they will stack on something and you'll just kill it in 3 seconds and, you know, brag. It kills Uber Arbiter with 6 people in the group without any buffs, except the self buffs, in about 10 seconds, right? Maybe a little bit faster than 10 seconds. So there is that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I will be happy to answer to the best of my ability, and I'll see you in another video. Bye-bye.